In this video, I'm going to develop a C# console app that uses the OpenAI Chat API to hold conversations in a variety of styles, such as friendly or sarcastic. I'm also going to train the Chat API so that it focuses on a particular subject and doesn't deviate from it. I'm going to use Visual Studio 2022 for this, so open it up and create a new console app project. Okay, first of all, I want to install the Newtonsoft JSON package. So this is the endpoint URL. The endpoint we're going to use is the chat completions. So let's create a method that gets called when the program runs, and this method makes the call to the API and responds with a message. So this payload is what is sent. It's a JSON payload. It's what is sent to the endpoint. So the model is the GPT 3.5 Turbo chat model. Tokens and temperature, that determines the length and the cost. So the larger this value, the longer the reply will be, but also it will cost you more. And the temperature determines the variability. So this is between 0 and 2. So a value of 0.9, you get a mix of sort of predictable and unpredictable responses. The messages array consists of a system message and a user message. So this system message tells the API what sort of tone to take, or what is the sort of context of the conversation. So in this case, your friendly assistant who always answers questions with a joke. And then I'm just hard coding in a message from the user, so who invented the telephone. But later on, I'll change this to something that is dynamically entered at the prompt. Okay, so with that method, construct the payload, serialize the payload, create a HTTP request, send it, and then return the response. Okay, so let's give that a try. Okay, so that seems to have worked. We've got a response with an ID created, date, time, the model, and how many tokens that it used. So the main response here is choices, message. So this is the assistant message or the response from the chat model. So the question was, who invented the telephone? I don't know, but I heard that Alexander Graham Bell had a really good ring to his name. So that's an answer to the question, and it's following the system instruction to be friendly and answer questions with a joke. So far so good. So what I want to do now, instead of hard coding the user message, I want to be able to have the user type in a question or something to talk to the assistant about. So to do that, make a few changes. So I'm passing a new value now to the method. So that will be whatever the user types in at the console will be put into this string value and then passed to the method. Okay, so when the program runs, it goes to the ask something method. The user is prompted to type something in. In fact, I'll type, let's say, so the user is prompted to type something, and in this method, whatever they type is then passed into this method, which is then passed to the API, and the assistant should respond accordingly. Okay, so I've typed something in, we get the response, and it should be again quite a jokey, light-hearted response. Well, maybe they're just tired of carrying you all day. It's time to give them a break. Maybe they need blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that worked. But of course, this response isn't very legible. What I want to do is extract just this text here, the content. That's quite easy to do. You need to create a few classes that match up with the response data. So we get the response from the method as usual, or as we did earlier. But what we do then is we do a JSON conversion and deserialize the object. And we just want the response text. So the chat response choices. We want the first in the array. And we want the content of the message. So essentially we want the content of the message that's held in the first element of the choices array. And I want to write this to the screen. Make it a bit more legible. So that will display the text, and then instead of the program ending there, we just put it on a loop. Say go back to ask something. That way you can actually have a conversation. Okay. Okay, so stupid conversation where they isn't grass very green? Yes, but blah blah blah. So this is giving again the sort of light-hearted, jokey responses. Interesting here. I made a typo. I should have typed "but why is grass green?" But it's interpreted that as instead of B-U-Y, B-U-T. So you can see it's very forgiving. But overall that works. So we can have a conversation with the AI, and yeah, so that's a step forward. So what I want to talk about now is setting the system message, so the tone and the topic of the conversation. So here I haven't really set a topic. I've set the tone, friendly assistant, but not the topic. So I want to get rid of this. Um, Okay, so you're an intelligent assistant who answers questions about legal and law terms. Do not deviate from this topic. So what this should do now is if I ask a question about a law term or a legal term, it will answer it. If I ask a question about anything else unrelated to the law, it shouldn't answer it, but it should give a polite response as to why it's not answering it. Okay, so let's give this a try. In fact, put up here, type something about the law. Okay, so I've asked a question, what does contempt of court mean? And I've got a response. And again, there's no jokey or overly friendly tone to this conversation. This is now a sort of serious or intelligent conversation that you're having about the law. Um, I'm not sure if that's the correct spelling, but let's see what happens. So famous, yeah. Again, it's been quite forgiving in the misspelling of a word. So give me a famous use case of habeas corpus, one famous use case, etc., etc. Well, let's try to deviate from this topic now. Who invented the automobile? So who invented the automobile? Obviously nothing to do with the law. I'm sorry, that question is not related to legal or law terms. As an AI legal assistant, I cannot deviate from this topic. So very, very clever in the sense of it sticking to the subject. So if I go back to the law, another misspelt word, or a typo at least. So the main difference, so what is the difference between manslaughter charge and a charge of murder? The main difference between a charge of manslaughter and charge of murder is the level of intent present in the act. So again, very, very intelligent response, informative, and relating to the question and the topic.